Trekkies, you can breathe a big sigh of relief. We came this close to the new owners of Paramount being big fans of Kurtzman. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. Close to buying Paramount. He put in a $4.8 billion bid last week and then he upped it to $6 billion. We, over here at SciTrek, actually had 2 videos ready to go that we've now had to delete, actually shouting at the top of our voices, please God, don't let this happen, for a couple of big reasons. One being that Bronfman is actually a convicted felon. In France, a few years ago, while he was head of Vivendi Universal, he was actually found guilty of insider trading, given a 15-month suspended prison sentence and fined €5 million. Also, his business practices over the year have been, let's say, dodgy. He actually pretty much completely destroyed his dad's business of Seagram, and his dad, Mr. Bronfman Jr, was actually a really cool guy. He actually fought for Jewish rights for many years, and he actually negotiated with the Russians during the Soviet Union era to get Russians the right to emigrate to Israel. Very cool guy. Seagram, which is a Canadian beverage company, was a big multinational. It pretty much no longer exists thanks to Edgar Bronfman Jr, who sold it, merged with Vivendi when he basically bought Universal and then realised he didn't have enough money to actually run Universal. So, not the best business attitude, even though he was a songwriter and actually had some success. This is Bronfman, I mean. And he actually produced a couple of movies with less success. One of them starred Jack Nicholson, though. So Bronfman, we were a little bit worried about him on a personal level, buying Paramount and then owning a company that really we love. But we also got to find out a little bit about his plans for Star Trek, thanks to insiders that we get to speak to. Now, we've also spoken to some insiders regarding actually the SkyDance plan for Star Trek. There have been some conversations between the new owners and some of the big production companies like the guys that run Yellowstone, etc., and obviously Secret Hideout. Now, I'm going to talk about that in the next video, because even though I've touched on it before, we've been able to find out a few more details. But we also got to find out what Bronfman was planning. And again, if you're a Trekkie like me, that's not been a massive fan of some of the new Trek, particularly the new Trek that Alex Kurtzman's been directly involved in, like Discovery. God, season 1 still makes me actually want to cry a little bit. Season 1 of Discovery makes me want to get 2 hot pokers and put them places that they shouldn't go. I would rather do that than watch Discovery season 1 in particular again. So bad. Love Lower Decks though. So, we, as Trekkies that are not the biggest fans of Alex Kurtzman, were a little bit concerned when we heard through our company insiders that, again, this conversation between Bronfman's representatives and Secret Hideout had taken place. Apparently, those conversations were very positive, and actually, they were suggesting very clearly to Secret Hideout that as soon as they got their feet under the table over at Paramount, that they would be offering Secret Hideout a new contract. That new contract would be negotiated very quickly, and the expectation would be that they would move ahead with Star Trek the way they have been. Secret Hideout were very pleased by this and shook their hand very firmly. But obviously now that deal has collapsed because Bronfman really needed to put more money in. The $6 billion deal is less than the $8 billion that SkyDance were actually willing to pay or are going to pay. Now, it wasn't quite as simple as that. And the reason why Bronfman and his consortium felt that they could put a lower bid in and actually had a reasonably good chance was because actually their $6 billion was going to go a little bit further with shareholders and Sri Redstone than the $8 billion of Skydance. Why is that? Very simply put, the SkyDance and Paramount deal means that those two companies merged together. So their two representative values are also merged. So say Paramount is worth $8 billion, that's what they sold it for. SkyDance is worth, say, $2 billion. They merge together, they're still only worth actually $8 billion. So the people that own shares in the company don't get quite as much for their dollar. Now, the Bronfman deal was a little bit different in that there was no merger, it was simply a straight purchase. So the overall value of Paramount is sustained. That means they would get a little bit more bang for their dollar, but not enough. Paramount Global were pushing them to head towards closer to $7 billion, and Bronfman simply was not willing to do so. So he withdrew his bid. The go shop period that basically meant that other people could put bids in while waiting for SkyDance is now closed, and SkyDance will be buying Paramount unless something really crazy happens by the middle of 2025. So let's just imagine for a second that that deal had gone through. For me, it is the nightmare scenario. It's the nuclear button option. It's the big red button. I don't want Alex Kurtzman to be actively involved in too much Star Trek in the future. I think the things that he's got actively involved in have been the part of Star Trek I don't like. For example, Lower Decks he has not had much active involvement in. It's Mike McMahon that runs it, and it's his baby. And it's Star Trek that I adore. Picard Season 3, obviously, again, there was no active involvement from Alex Kurtzman. That was all Terrace Metalis, baby. And I think we got better Star Trek for it. I think Kurtzman has a vision for Star Trek that is different to my vision of what I'd like Star Trek to be. He wrote some of the J.J. Abrams movies, and I think he took a lot of that influence from those movies and brought it into the series. Discovery, particularly when he was actively involved in it, looked an awful lot more like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek than it did like the Star Trek we know. And to be honest, I think that will continue. Alex Kurtzman's power really would have been reinforced under this Bronfman deal. Why? A lot of Paramount people have been pushing Secret Hideout to do something a bit different with Star Trek over the last 2 or 3 years. Basically, they look at Picard Season 3 and go, this is what Star Trek can do. You need to do more of that. Bronfman really would have given Alex Kurtzman a free rein. Does SkyDance, though? Does SkyDance have a better idea? Well, we also are aware over here at SciTrek of conversations between SkyDance and his people and the Star Trek producers over at Secret Hideout. And that's for the next video. But I can tell you, Alex Kurtzman was not as impressed by the conversations and promises he was getting from them as he was the promises he was getting from Bronfman and their consortium. So, please, join us on the next video where we're going to talk about Secret Hideout's future with Paramount under new SkyDance owners. If you are new to the channel, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, do all those YouTubey things, but most importantly, go over to patreon.com/SciTrek where most of our new videos do premiere first and you get to see them way before everybody else. Go check it out. As always, please stay safe and I'll see you next time.